I think she's a keeper.
Keeper is a brand new horror film from director Osgood Perkins, and this is the same director that gave us the horror film The Monkey earlier this year. And yeah, I do have the monkey popcorn bucket back there. I love that popcorn bucket. As for the movie, I enjoyed the film. I thought he had a great idea about this monkey that when it hits the drum, well, all of a sudden someone will die at random.
Oh, fuck.
And while I enjoyed the setup of that movie, I wasn't a big fan of how he tied everything together at the end. And this is the same director that gave us the film Lawn Legs last year, which was another horror film that I enjoyed. And I thought it gave us a great, crazy performance out of Nicolas Cage, which isn't hard to do. Typically these days, if you put Nicolas Cage in something, you're going to get a great, crazy performance because it's Nicolas Cage. But I enjoyed the premise of that movie as well. I also enjoyed the setup, the cat and mouse game between both the serial killer and the police officer, and I liked how it was grounded and had Silence of the Lamb vibes, but in the back half of the film, it took a turn and it was more of a supernatural thriller, and I wasn't a big fan of how he wrapped that movie up either. So when I heard that Osgood Perkins was making another horror film this year, this time one called Keeper, well, I got excited about it because I've at least enjoyed the previous two films that he's made. So I went out on opening weekend with my wife because we enjoy watching horror movies together, and as we got out of the car and started walking up to the theater, she said, "I wish I had a chocolate chip cookie right now," which is weird for her because she's not really into sweets, but we got into the theater and sure enough, they were selling a big chocolate chip cookie, so we picked that up. We picked up a couple of bottles of water. We sat down in some wonderful reclining chairs at the Imagine Theater. If you have an Imagine Theater near your house, you need to go check it out. They are awesome. We sat down in those seats and we watched Keeper. And let's do the review.
Here we go.
That is one big pile of shit.
No, I shot him. Bullets in the fall killed him.
So Keeper stars Tatiana Maslany as Liz and Rosaf Sutherland as Malcolm. And Liz and Malcolm are a couple. You find out at the beginning of this film that they've been dating for several months now, and this is going to be their very first big getaway together. And they're going to Malcolm's family's cabin in the woods. And I'm kind of a sucker for a cabin in the woods setting. I pretty much like all the different horror genres. I'm a big horror fan, but I really like the idea of a cabin in the woods. It's secluded, and we'll get to more of that in my positives. But both Liz and Malcolm get to this cabin, and a couple of strange noises or themes can be seen at the beginning. Liz kind of blows them off, like maybe she's just excited for this weekend away with her boyfriend Malcolm. But unfortunately, Malcolm gets a call because Malcolm is a doctor, and he finds out that one of his patients is about to die. And so he tells her, "I gotta leave you alone in this cabin for a little bit of time. I'm gonna go take care of my patient, but I will be back." So he leaves, and while he's gone, things start getting weirder and scarier for Liz in this secluded cabin in the woods. And that is the best synopsis that I can give you for Keeper without spoiling anything. I want to keep this spoiler free, so that's the best setup that I can give you. If that sounds like a fun time, well, this movie is currently playing in theaters and you can check it out there. All right, guys, now I am going to get into my positives and my negatives for Keeper here in a second, but before I do that, if this is the first time you found my channel, well, I would love for you guys to hit that subscribe button, check out all the different content that I have, whether you like movie reviews, Blu-ray talk, or even ranked list videos. I've got a little bit of everything on my channel, and I'd love for you guys to check it out. All right, let's get into my positives and my negatives for Keeper. The first positive I have for this movie is going to be that creepy cabin in the woods setting and the creepy overall atmosphere of this film. Because the director doesn't reveal too much in the first two acts of this movie, you are constantly looking for things all over the screen because there's creepy little things that are happening all around Liz. You don't know why they're happening, if something happened in this house before, or if something lives in the woods. You're just kind of wondering what's going on in this haunted cabin or in this this very creepy atmosphere that they've built for this movie, and I really enjoyed that. Again, I love cabin in the woods films, and this isn't your typical scary cabin in the woods either. It's a very beautiful looking cabin. For instance, it's not the Evil Dead cabin in any of the Evil Dead movies. There's not like a reason to not go in the house. Like, you don't walk up to it and go, yeah, there's definitely something undead in the basement. I'm not walking in there. The cabin is nothing like that in this film. It's very beautiful, has a ton of windows. It's just a gorgeous cabin in the woods. Looks like people that are rich that own a cabin in the woods, and they have somebody keep it clean and keep it nice for them. In fact, there's even a caretaker that leaves them cake. So it's just a very nice cabin. It's very inviting. But something about how nice the cabin is, how inviting the cabin is off-putting. Like, just going into this cabin and being like, wow, this is gorgeous. I can't believe this is in the middle of nowhere. There's just something about that makes it a little more creepy than, yeah, why would I ever go into that cabin? Like, if I walk into the Evil Dead cabin, I know for a fact something undead is going to come after me just looking at the look of the cabin. But again, this cabin is very inviting. There's something off-putting about that. I kind of liked it. But on top of that, I like the atmosphere that they built in this film as well. The very creepy atmosphere that something was always watching Liz, that something was maybe stalking Liz, something was maybe hunting her throughout this film. And again, just that creepy atmosphere that they built. One other creepy thing that sort of sets the tone for this creepy atmosphere throughout the movie is at the very beginning, she walks up to one of these big glass windows in the cabin and she breathes on it and her breath sort of fogs it up and she draws a little heart, doesn't think much of it, walks away. Well, later she's taking a bath, and behind her on the window, a little bit of breath from something fogs up that window behind her and also draws a heart. And it's just a really creepy way to set the tone for this movie that she's being stalked or hunted throughout this film. My next positive is going to be some of the graphic and bloody imagery that we get throughout this movie, on top of the creepy atmosphere, the setting in the cabin that I enjoy. I also loved some of the violence that we see. Now, you only see real snippets of the violence because that's not what this movie is necessarily about, or we see little snippets of the gore. But if you're a gore fan, or if you enjoy a bit of violence in a horror movie like this, you're going to get little pieces of it throughout the movie, or you're going to get some creepy imagery, because this thing that seems to be stalking Liz throughout the film, well, it shows itself to her in different ways. And there's some just really creepy old lady looking images you get in this film. And for whatever reason, old ladies creep me out. When I go to a haunted house, if there's like somebody that's portraying like a creepy old lady, gets me every time. I don't know why it scares me, but it does. But that said, there's a couple of images in this movie of creepy old ladies. And again, just the quick, graphic, bloody images that we get were something that I enjoyed, so I wanted to make them a positive. And my final positive out of this movie is going to be the acting coming from Tatiana Maslany throughout this film. I don't think I've seen her in too many projects before. She did play She-Hulk in the She-Hulk show. I wasn't a fan of that show at all, but I don't think it was her that was the problem. I think the writing, the direction, the CGI, the twerking, all of those things were the reasons I didn't like She-Hulk. But I thought that she was fine in that show, and so it was exciting to see her pop up in this film, and she does such a great job portraying emotions throughout this movie. You know, at the beginning of the film, she's vulnerable. She's going with this guy that she knows somewhat. I mean, she's been dating this guy for 6 months, but he's kind of mysterious. He's busy a lot because he's a doctor, and she's talking to her friend on the phone about going away with this guy, and her friend's kind of like, well, hope he's not taking you out there to kill you. And she's like, oh, no, that wouldn't happen. So you see her be vulnerable at the beginning of this film, and then at one point she eats something and she kind of goes on a weird trip, and because of that weird trip, you see her see things, and she starts to get scared of her environment, and I think she does a good job showing how scared she is. So just overall, the acting from Tatiana in this film makes me want to see her in more projects in the future. That'll do it for my positives. Now we have to get over to my negatives, and unfortunately, my negatives for this movie are very story-based, and that's not good because that does not lend itself to rewatchability in the future. But getting into my story-based negatives that I have for this film, well, the first one is that the story itself, the overall story, what the point and the goal is of this film, is incredibly flimsy. It's very predictable. It's something we've seen so many times in the past. And I'm going to try to tread lightly here when I tell you guys what my issues are with the story, because I don't want to spoil things in case you're looking forward to watching this film. But my issues with the story is that there's something in these woods that seems to be stalking Liz throughout the film, and you can kind of predict where it's going, but there's a certain point in time that when this thing happens, it involves a third character that I haven't talked about yet. When that thing happens, you're like, oh, I know exactly where this is going. And then it was just predictable all the way to the end. And I'm not saying there weren't some good things along the way throughout this story. Again, some great graphic imagery. I thought good acting from Tatiana, and the setting, the overall atmosphere, all of that worked for me. But I did have a problem with how flimsy this story really felt. Like, we get this brand new story from Osgood Perkins, and I'm like, all right, let's see what he's got cooked up for us this time. Like, I didn't love the ending of both The Monkey and Lawn Legs, but I did enjoy the premises of those films. So we're getting another brand new story from Osgood Perkins. What's he going to give us here, and how's he going to tie this thing together? And throughout the film, you just watch this story unfold that I feel like I've seen so many times before. And that leads me to my other negative, which again is very story based. This negative is mostly about the third act, and I've tried recording this a couple of times, this last portion here, without spoiling anything, and I always find my way to a spoiler. So I'm just going to say at this point, I'm going to throw some spoilers in this final negative. I still won't try to reveal everything about this movie, but I am going to put some spoilers here. So if you don't want spoilers, please hit that like button. I'll see you in the next video. Come back to this, watch the rest of this after you've seen the movie Keeper. But if you don't care about spoilers, you've been warned. Here we go. So you get into the third act of this movie, and you've got Liz, who's been scared throughout this movie. She's freaking out in this movie. She's not sure if her boyfriend's telling the truth. You get to the third act, and they reveal exactly what's going on. And essentially, the thing in the woods was created a very long time ago by Malcolm. Malcolm is a lot older than he let on, because when he did something a very long time ago, it seems to have granted him a very long life, a very long life. And because of that, he's now made a deal with this thing that's stalking Liz. And that's where I'll leave it. I'll leave all the rest of the spoilers out. But my point I'm making is that they never connect the dots on his story. They show what happened so very long ago, and then they're just like, and so there's the deal that's been struck. And you're like, well, how did you get to that point? I would have liked to have seen that a little more. In fact, I would have liked to have seen that movie way more than this. I would have preferred to see a movie that took place all that long ago and watched as he did what he did to this thing, and then find out how he struck a deal and how he's kept this deal going throughout the years. But instead, you just get, oh yeah, this thing happened, and by the way, there was a deal somewhere in between, but we're not going to connect those things because you don't need them connected. Now, technically, you don't. You're like, okay, so he did this thing, he made a deal, he's a creep, gotcha. Here we go. So that's really how they tie things together in this movie, and unfortunately, that has been my issue with Osgood Perkins movies in the past. It's how he ties things together in the third act, and yet again, here we are, where I don't like the way that he ties things up in this film. A lot of good ideas, a lot of fun atmosphere, a lot of fun graphic images throughout this movie, a story that was flimsy, but I thought it could be saved when they did the reveal in the third act, but unfortunately, when you get to that reveal, he never connects the dots that would make this reveal that much more powerful. And again, I think that the better movie in here was that story from so long ago when Malcolm did what he did, when he cut a deal. That would have been a better story overall. Overall, this is another Osgood Perkins film that I think had an interesting setup, and even though it had a bit of a flimsy story, it was all going to hinge on how he tied things together at the end. And unfortunately, much like The Monkey and much like Lawn Legs, I don't like how he tied things together. And while I had different issues with the endings of those movies, my issue with this movie is that he just gave you way too much with also not giving you enough at the same time. It's a weird issue to have, but it did. Like, he threw everything at you at the end, and he still didn't make those things connect the way that really would have impacted me. So when you get to the end of the movie, I understood what he was going for, but I was very disappointed. But guys, as always, those are just my opinions, because that's my review for Keeper. Have you guys had a chance to see this film yet? If you have, let me know in the comment section down below. I love hearing all of your thoughts, where we agree, where we disagree, so don't be shy, throw your comments down below. And finally, guys, if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button, because it helps the video, it helps the channel, and it helps me right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Alright guys, we got to the end of my Keeper review. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and fun fact, this is the first video after I got done making all of my horror movie reviews in October that has a different poster background. Yeah, I switched out all my posters again. We got The Watchmen there, we got Stab, we got Indiana Jones, Mean Girls, Batman, and so on, all the way down the wall in my movie theater area. Guys, I'm so happy to have made another video. It's just, there's something that's so much fun about giving you guys my thoughts on movies. I really enjoy doing it, and and I'm looking forward to giving you guys more reviews. Again, The Running Man should be the next review that I give you guys. I'm looking forward to doing that one as well. But until then, if you want to check out any of the other content on my channel, well, I've got all of my best and worst of 2025 right there, and I've got all of my 2025 movie reviews right there.